one of my hypotheses was that if I woke up maybe at 5:30, then I'll be able to get to church on time. Okay, so that was a hypothesis. So then now we have to test out the hypothesis, right? So the first time around, yeah, I woke up early, did what I had to do, but we still went to church late. And I'm like, okay, well, clearly that hypothesis I've just disproved the hypothesis that it is possible for me to wake up early, but that does not mean that I'm going to get to church on time. Hey everyone, Dr. Mrs. Mom over here, and I am back with a new video. Today, I want to talk about something that I think is super, super important as we evolve in life, as we pick up new responsibilities, as we get into new scenarios. Maybe we just got married, maybe we just had a child. Super critical. And what is that? Creating rhythms for balance and flow in your life. If I were to sit down and think about the top 5 questions I get asked in life in general, one of those questions would be, how do you do all the things that you do? Now, this question obviously is because, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a creative doing content, I'm a worship leader, I serve at my local church, and I run a couple of businesses. And so it's like, how do you do all of these things? Not go crazy, and try your best to be as excellent as you possibly can to reflect the King, right, in everything that you're doing. And so the first response to that is always, God will make a way where there seems to be no way. And right up there with that would be, I have a very supportive, involved, and caring husband, without which none of these things would even be possible. So that's how. But from a very practical standpoint, I wanted to kind of share some things that I've learned, some things that I'm doing, and I'm still, reflecting and evaluating and tweaking. But I was going to present this to you in a form of the scientific inquiry, right? So there's a method of scientific inquiry. If you ever take a science class, this is like one of the first things that ever gets talked about, right? Because I realized that that's exactly how I go about solving problems in my life. I've been in this field for over 15 years. And so it's super, super ingrained and is a part of me. And so I figured, how about I share with you guys, how do we create rhythms for balance in our lives and our homes using the scientific method of inquiry? Let's get into it. With the scientific method, right, it always starts off with some level of observation, right? You've seen something and then you begin to question, right? You raise a question. Maybe that is in the form of a hypothesis. Like, if I did this, would I get this, right? And then based off of your hypothesis, you create an experiment, right, to test it, to prove or disprove your hypothesis. And then based off of the results of your experiment, you come to some conclusion after analysis, and then you communicate that conclusion, right? And so that's exactly the steps that we're going to take today as I share with you ways that I have succeeded, but also ways that I have failed woefully as I try to create rhythm in my own life. Observation. Quick story time. When I became a mom, I felt like everything that I knew to be true was kind of tossed in the garbage. And I was sort of kind of prepared for it, but also sort of kind of not prepared for it. And so essentially it felt like I was starting from scratch. Like I would do all these things, and it felt like I was hitting walls, or I was getting frustrated because I would try to do things the way I used to do them when I didn't have a child, and it wasn't working. The timing wasn't working. The results weren't coming through. And I was just really confused as to what exactly was going on. So I observed that maybe motherhood is going to require a different kind of rhythm than I'm currently doing or living or trying out. So after I made that observation, I started to reflect on what is consistently giving me stress. Where are the roadblocks and the hindrances to the systems that I've created initially, right? So I started asking myself these questions. And as you ask questions, right, more questions come about. So questions like, I know that the baby's waking up at, every however number of hours, 3 hours to feed. But by the time I wake up, I'm so tired. But then we need bottles to be washed. And so if I'm not washing the bottles, then I'm too tired. So now I'm noticing that my mood is just completely off. What do I need to do to ensure that even though tiredness is a part of motherhood, I don't let it impact my mood in a way that I can actually control, in a way that I can actually handle? Because again, your hormonal can't control that. Your body is doing what it's doing, but it's like, what are the things that I can control? So I started to ask these questions. Even as my son has started to get older, right? I'm asking questions like, okay, I need to create content. I need to rehearse, like practice, because I'm leading worship. I need to pray and worship. I need to do X, Y, and Z for my business. Like I need to source fabric, or I don't know, I need to go out and pick up some decor. How am I going to handle all of these things? What then is actually priority? And so I'm asking tons and tons of questions, which again, obviously this is the second process of scientific inquiry, right? You're asking the questions, and then you come up with a hypothesis, right? A good example of this for me, one of the things that was a big challenge, if you will, getting back into leading worship after going on maternity leave, was, okay, what does our mornings have to look like such that I'm able to get to church on time? We do everything for the baby, and me getting to church, I'm not so frazzled that I have to de-escalate my mind before I have to go into leading worship. And so my hypothesis was, rather, one of my hypotheses was that if I woke up maybe at 5:30, then I'll be able to get to church on time. Okay, so that was a hypothesis. So then now we have to test out the hypothesis, right? So the first time around, yeah, I woke up early, did what I had to do, but we still went to church late. And I'm like, okay, well, clearly that hypothesis I've just disproved the hypothesis that it is possible for me to wake up early, but that does not mean that I'm going to get to church on time. So I had to go through different iterations of that plan, right? Different iterations of, okay, if I wake up early, then am I the one that goes to get the baby after I've showered? Or does my husband go get the baby after I'm showered or while I'm showering? Again, you're trying so many different things, right? You are essentially experimenting to see what's going to work. And I think that's something that I would say to encourage anyone who's trying to navigate creating a new rhythm for their lives is remain flexible. You're going to have to keep experimenting until you find something that actually works. And it could be the case that what worked for you 2 days ago doesn't work for you today because the circumstances are different. So then you have to go back into an experimenting phase to figure out, okay, so what do I have to do? What do I need to do? How do we go about doing it? Another example, right, of how I'm creating rhythms in my home, using this scientific method of inquiry is, let's use being, a creative person creating content. I had gone on YouTube, I believe it was sometime, was it a year ago or a year and a half ago? Something like that. I don't remember. No, I think it was till end of 2023. And again, I was in the thick of motherhood. I was even in my 4th trimester when I decided to just go ahead and do it, right? And what I realized is while I was excited to do the content, to get on my camera, to record. I even like, one of the rhythms for me was, okay, because I have so many moving parts, because there is a baby, because he's going to be sleeping at a certain time, let me just have something that was like plug and play, right? So I created a studio in our basement. Everything was there. All I had to do was go in, turn on the camera and go, right? But that was one portion of the experiment, right? That if I did that, it would be easier for me to record. And I would say that that was successful. However, what I didn't take into account is, because a baby is a baby, you have to be so flexible that certain systems are just not going to work in a newborn phase. Certain systems are not going to work in a toddler phase, right? And so being honest enough with myself to, as I'm assessing and asking questions, is, okay, while the studio is there and it's plug and play, am I actually going to be able to go down there to record, have enough time to record before he wakes up? Because I can't predict that. And I think that was something that, I don't want to say I set myself up for failure. It was it's learnings, right? I learned early in that process that babies are babies, and there's a flexibility that's required in that season. And so it was difficult for me to be consistent, because at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get to is the consistency in producing content. So the toddler mom today is like, I've created a new system this year for myself where it's like, on this one day, I'm batch creating all the videos that I want, and I'm doing it X number of videos out. So if something were to happen on any given day, I'm, 3 videos ahead or 2 videos ahead. And that had to take experimenting, right? Like I tried it a few times, and then I had a situation where we had guests, so I couldn't really record. But it didn't feel like anything shifted or changed. It didn't feel like anything moved. The content was already there. It was edited. And so the cycle, the consistency is what you're seeing today, is a well experimented and analyzed system that I created in my home to help me be more effective at creating content. Now, is it always going to be this way? No. And I think that's what's really cool to me about the scientific method, right? Is that every day new information is coming out. Every day there's added factors that might impact the way that you are doing your research, might impact the way that you are carrying out your experiments. And you just simply adjust to take in that new information. So for anyone who is out there trying to create a system or a rhythm in their house, I hope this method helps. Like I said, this is something that in my research life, this is a standard, right? Like you read all the research that's out there, then it's like, there's this question that has been left unanswered. How do I go about answering that question? I set up an experiment, and we analyze the results and that data, whether it, whether your hypothesis is proved or disproved, regardless, you get information out of it. And so I just want to encourage you, as you are creating rhythms in your house, is to just sit down, first of all, and observe, okay? Ask yourself the questions. Where are you finding it hard to be consistent? What's something that you need to put in place to help you better serve your house, better serve your life? Because what I found is, when the content is not in the way of my mothering is not in the way of my content, right? Like you're creating systems that are going to be useful for every sphere of your life at any given time. And you don't win all the time. It doesn't work all the time. And I don't even know that I look at them as failures. I think I just look at them as areas of improvement. Like we tried this thing and it didn't work. Like with the shower thing, we had so many iterations until we found the thing that would work, right? It was like, I shower, I get the baby. The moment I go to get the baby, you wake up, okay? If you know anything about my husband and waking up, okay? So you wake up such that when I'm done with the baby, you're done in the shower, we can swap, I can get ready, you can take him to eat. Like it's just, you create systems, you create routine. The one place I'm telling you right now though, guys, that I am on struggle bus with, it's food. And I know everyone says, just get a food timetable. And I thought the same thing. Listen, I have different iterations of a food timetable on my fridge. But while it might work for somebody else, it does not work for my household. And so I'm in a space right now where I'm trying to evaluate why is it that, this timetable isn't working. And I don't want to say anything about my husband on here because he's not here to defend himself. But it's him. If you know him, send him a message and say, bro, get on the food timetable, okay? But anyways, I'm joking around. I'm kidding. You just, again, you figure out what's going to work for you, work for your house. But I just wanted to provide you with this 7-step process that, like I said, in my scientific world, this is exactly what we use to troubleshoot problems, to create answers, to answer things that are known or unknown. So hopefully this helps, and congratulations on your science refresher course. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments, how are you creating rhythms for your life? They say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So let's get into our planning bag in 2025 and create rhythms that work for us, that serve us, and not the other way around. So see you guys in the next video. Bye.